Alright, and hello everybody, I'm the Sweetbro27, and welcome to another Dokkan battle video. It has been a long time since we've done another custom Dokkan character, but here we are, and it is Super Baby 2 I've chosen for this. Again, this is going to be kind of a little bit of a problem where I designed this character a long time ago. This was supposed to kind of coincide with the Tanabata celebration when it dropped out on Global. I ended up posting these on my Twitter. Go follow me on Twitter if you haven't already done so. So this has been public knowledge, kind of like my idea or whatever, but I figured I would finally make a video for it, and I am just off the heels of making my Help Wanted 2 kind of like ending explained video, so I'm a little bit energetic, even though it's like 2 a.m. It is, oh no, it's 3 a.m. actually, 2:55 a.m. So my voice is a little bit shot, that's why, but let's go ahead and look at my boy Super Baby 2. So his name is Triumph of the Tuffles, Super Baby 2. Who will be an STR, TUR. His leader skill will be Corroded Body and Mind, Revenge, or Battle of Fate category allies, 3 key, 170 to stats, and then an additional 30% to stats for characters who are on GT bosses, artificial life forms, or inhuman deeds. So let's go check out his category real quick. Alright, so we already have his categories pulled up. So this is kind of what we're looking like. We have like the new free-to-play Frieza and Cell. I did these guys so much better. Definitely go check out that video if you haven't already. You have LR Omega, obviously. You have LR Hachiak, which would actually be pretty relevant on this team. Golden Frieza, Cell, my darling, the Crimson Masked Saiyan. You have a bunch of characters on here that are of a much lower power level. Like, this is just the 200%. However, I feel like Corroded Body and Mind, Revenge, and Battle of Fate, specifically Battle of Fate, are all very good categories. Like, you could theoretically run, like, the GT duo on this team. You could get a couple of similar links with them. Like, there are characters you can run outside of this. So even though the 200% isn't the strongest out there, just having, like, these as options, it is relevant. Like, Orange Piccolo is on this. Sort of Hope is on this. You have, like, every Majin Buu, or not Majin Buu, every Majin Vegeta is on this team. And then just this is just to, like, kind of stay in line with Baby and get a couple of like GT-esque characters actually on the team. You have the AGL, EZA, obviously. So overall, I feel like it's not a terrible leader skill. You could probably toss some of these off. I feel like it is a little bit cheap every single time that I give 3 and 3. If I were to do anything, it would probably be Artificial Life Forms and Battle of Fate would be like the most thematic, but then it drastically changes. Like, look at how bad this is. Yeah, this being the only 200%, I feel like you have to give these characters, especially villains. Villains deserve the love, so like we're allowed to fudge the rules just a little bit. So let's go and check this bad boy out. So for his 12 key, again, he is just a TUR. Original plan was to be an LR, but then I had a different idea. I wanted to give him a domain instead. So it is just the Revenge Final Flash, which will be a Key Blast. Stacks attack and defense, immense damage, and a high chance to seal. I just did the seal for funsies, no real reason for it. His passive skill, Rebuilding a Planet. As you can see, we have the red Super Shenron from the Black Star Dragon Balls. That's for a reason, obviously. So he gets 3 key and 180 to stats at the start of turn. He gets an extra 150 attack and defense when he performs a super attack. He gets 1 key, up to 3. And 20% attack up to 60 with each attack received. Just stick with me here. I know characters having to get hit to build up isn't normally the best thing ever, but it is just 3 attacks. He builds up pretty quickly. And he does get an extra 180% to defense for 1 turn after he receives a hit, so that makes it a little bit easier for him to get built up. It's just that first hit that'll do a little bit of damage each turn. And he is stacking as well, which is relevant. He gets an extra 10% attack and defense up to 100% with each attack performed. It doesn't have to be a super attack. So, theoretically, every time you do a super, you're getting a 30%, or no, it's a 20% because it's both. You're getting a 20% attack and defense raise, as well as 10% attack and defense from his pass up to 100%. Pretty good. This is where I did a little something with this character. Reduce damage received by 50%, and an extra 180% to defense when another character has the Hatred of Sans link in the same turn. So I kind of revolved this guy around that link because I went on record a long time ago saying Hatred to Sans was a crazy link, and then I saw all the characters who have it. It's literally just Super Baby 2 and Hachiak. And we'll get to this a little bit later. I gave this guy 2 side banner units, kind of like Ginyu and Turles. I imagine that he could be that time slot if we don't get him for like Tanabata or Worldwide or 9th Anniversary. I feel like that would be the place to plop him. Would be because A, he could get the most amount of help there. And B, that's normally a pretty fun little celebration. It comes right off the heels of, like for Global, it's like right before, but for JP, it's right after 9th Celebration, or the yearly celebration. And normally those are pretty powerful. Turles was kind of an exception, but Ginyu on release, his team, he was god worthy. And especially you could give him like some free-to-play EZAs. I didn't make this guy an EZA character. I didn't give him any like free-to-play EZAs, but you could theoretically EZA, or just even Dokkan Awaken all those free-to-play like Corrupt Goten, Corrupt Gohan, Corrupt Bulma, Corrupt Videl. All those characters could get awakenings, and they could be decent free-to-play options. So that's kind of where that comes into play. I'm trying to revitalize a Link, give it some worthiness, and it would give like LR Hachiak a place to kind of fit in. So let's just go back to his kit, moving on from that. He launches an additional that has a high chance of picking a super attack, and then after that he has a 50% chance to launch a super attack. So he's guaranteed at least 1 additional. He could theoretically launch 2. So if you give him a full additional build, that could be 4 additionals per turn. All of those attacks are giving him 10% attack and defense. And if they are super attacks, he's also getting the stacks there. Now, his active skill is kind of like Fusion Zamasu's, where it's a domain that has an effect when you activate the domain, and then the domain itself has an effect. So he has 2 effects on his domain, which in my opinion is a little bit better than what Future Gohan got, because Future Gohan, you don't get to activate it and then something else happens, you know what I mean? So, it is bring back the Planet of the Tuffles. Creates the domain, Planet of the Tuffles. Corroded Body and Mind allies get 20% damage reduction. This can be activated from turn 5, or if all characters on the rotation have the Hatred of Sands link. So if we're going with just the characters I've created, you'll pretty much want to have one of the side banner units on each rotation and keep Baby on rotation. So like turn 1, where these fights are like the hardest, think about Fusion Zamasu. If you have a bad lineup where you have Super Baby 2, one of the side banner units, and then like your other, like your friend unit, you would be able to launch the domain on turn 1, meaning that Baby would have 70% damage reduction, as well as all other Corroded Body and Mind category allies on that turn, and that lasts for the entire duration of the standby. So you could either use it early in a fight when you kind of need it the most, or late in the fight to like kind of secure a victory. So we'll kind of delve a little bit more into that once we look at his side banner units. But his link set, he has a very good villain link set. He has GT, which is 2 key, 10% attack and defense. BBB, which is 25 to stats. Shuddering the Limit, which is 2 key and 5% attack and defense. Thirst for Conquest, which is 15 to stats. Metamorphosis is 5% HP recovery and 10% to stats. Hatred of Sands, 3 key and 10% attack. And then Cold Judgment, 25% defense. And he is also on a bunch of categories: Corroded Body and Mind, Battle of Fate, GT Bosses, Artificial Lifeforms, Inhuman Deeds, Transformation Boost, Terrifying Conquerors, Target Goku, Revenge, Space Traveling Warriors, and Power of Wishes. And he is on Power of Wishes because of the wish that he makes to revive the planet. So he's kind of going to fulfill a same role as Ginyu, where Ginyu, he's on a lot of teams, but you kind of want to run him on his own team. But as long as you run him with at least one of his side banner units, like you could theoretically just run Raccoon and Ginyu, and you would be fine on like the cooler team. Even though I actually used to do that when I didn't have too many good like movie boss-esque characters, and it actually was relatively decent, although it was Berter and Jace instead of Raccoon, because I recently got Raccoon. So you could still do that. You could have him, one of his side banner units, like on a GT Bosses team, or they share a lot of categories together. That way you can still get the Hatred of Sands buff without having to just run him. Even though I feel like this character is super powerful, you would want to run multiple of him. And part of that is because of his domain, which lasts for 5 turns. The domain effect probably isn't too great. All Pure Sand category enemies and allies do 30% less damage, and they take 30% more damage. And then characters who have the Hatred of Sands link get an extra 30% attack and defense. So let's really look at this. So pretty much all the characters on his team are Corroded Body and Mind and also have the Hatred of Sands link, except for like Hachiak. So they're getting 20% damage reduction and 30% attack and defense for 5 turns. And then if you're going up against a Pure Sand enemy, which at some point we're bound to get a difficult Pure Sand enemy, they will take 30% more damage for those 5 turns. So while the domain effect is a little bit weaker, the actual active skill portion of it is quite good. Because again, 20% damage reduction for all corroded body and mind category allies for the 5 turns is something that cannot be overlooked. I feel like he would make a massive shift in the meta, potentially, and it would just bring, like, more... Like, this would be something that Dokkan would do if they wanted to make a ton of money. Have a character that has a restriction like this that's really good, and then give him 2 side banner units that also have the same link set. So there's not too much to really go in depth with this character. I feel like he's pretty cut and dry. You just want to run him with other Hatred of Sands Link characters so that he gets the 50% damage reduction. He's built up, he stacks. At the start of a fight, he could maybe get caught, but that's the whole purpose of his active skill. Again, you can do it right from turn 1. Fusion Zamasu would do literally no damage to him. He has 70% damage reduction. After he gets hit once, he gets an extra 180% to defense. He built up a lot of attack. Obviously, when he does get hit, he stacks offense. And yeah, he has a great link set too. Now moving on to the first of the 2 side banner units. I'm incredibly proud of this one. We have Brainwashed Brainiacs, Videl Possessed GT, and Bulma Possessed GT, obviously a new name character. And these are the free-to-play characters that I am talking about, although I think the Bulma is just an asset. The Videl is just a R, just a rarity, I believe. And I don't even think you can obtain her anymore. So I don't know, theoretically you could give her an Awakening Maker, an SSR, or a UR, or you could add this Bulma to the Game Maker, an SSR, a UR that have some moderate, like, success. You can make them an Orange Changer or a Dodger or whatever. But let's look at the character that I've actually made here. They will be an Int TUR. They'll be Corroded Body and Mind category allies, 3 key and 130 to stats. The Blutz Wave Blaster is their super attack, which is a weapon attack, or weapon type super. Raise attack for 1 turn, and then extreme class allies get 30% attack and defense for 2 turns. I just thought that's awesome. I'm really proud of this character. Their passive skill is Supporting Lord Baby. They get 2 key and 100 to stats at the start of turn. Corroded Body and Mind category allies get 1 key and 30% attack and defense. They have a high chance to dodge, including super attacks. They get 30% defense up to 300 with each attack dodged. Allies who have the Hatred of Sands link get an extra 10% damage reduction. Then they have a high chance to dodge when there's another character who has the Hatred of Sands link in the turn. So, forgive me, but we're going to do this. Let's say, again, you get the friend unit baby, your baby, and this unit on the same turn. You're able to activate the domain. This guy would now have 80% damage reduction. Okay. He would get 30% attack and defense because he has the Hatred of Sands link. And then, because of these guys... he's getting another 10% damage reduction. That's how we get to 80. As well as they're giving him 1 key and another 30 to stats. He's going to be unkillable that entire time. You just want to keep them on rotation. You can honestly put these guys in slot 1 if you wanted to. They have 2 separate procs to do a 50% chance to dodge. And then with each dodge, they get bulkier and bulkier and bulkier. So the longer the fight goes on, you don't have to worry about them getting frauded out defensively, especially since they don't get any defense on their super attack. Yeah, I was just really proud of this one. I thought this one was fun. And then their links that they have GT, which is 2 key, 10% attack and defense. Hatred of Sands, 3 key and 10% attack. Shuddering the Limit, 2 key and 5% attack and defense. Brainiacs, 15% attack and defense. Cold Judgment, 25% defense. Loyalty, 2 key and they get 5% damage reduction. And then Money, 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 which is 2 key and 20% defense. Money, Money, Money is a really good link, but unfortunately it's only on Bulma and Videl characters. I think there might be a Hercule who has it. I'm unsure. But that's why they have that shared link right there. And then Corroded Body and Mind, Inhuman Deeds, Terrifying Conquerors, Space Traveling Warriors, Earthbred Fighters, Earthlings, Peppy Gals, Joined Forces, and Revenge are the categories that they are on. So, I mean, theoretically, you could still run them, like, on the Peppy Gal team, because Peppy Gals can use any help that they can get. Even though, you know, you're not getting the 1 key, 30% attack and defense support, just having a character who dodges and builds a lot of defense on their dodges is something that could probably help that team out a lot. Especially if you have, like, Fascia support and, or not Fascia, Chilai support, so you can see where, like, the scouter is and everything. I feel like these guys could actually be, like, a relevant unit, even if you were running, like, an extreme Peppy Gals team with, like, more, even though she kind of stinks, Mamba, or, a lot of, like, the early Android 18s, like, future Android 18, stuff like that. It could maybe be, like, a nice little buff to the team. Now, these guys, and I don't want anyone to say anything about Goten's little finger going over to the whatever. I didn't want to cut it off, and I didn't want to move him too much, because then his hand would cover up Trunks. We're just going to act like it's not even there. But we have the Tuffle Possessed Trio, Super Saiyan Gohan Possessed GT, Super Saiyan Goten Possessed GT, and then Super Saiyan Trunks Possessed GT. Again, these are all free-to-play characters. You could give them awakenings or give them EZAs or do anything you would want to them to kind of bolster this team out a little bit more, kind of like what they did with the Ginyu Force team. These guys will be a tech TUR, and they also have Corroded Body and Mind 3 key and 130 to stats. Their super attack is the Brainwash Bash, which will just be an other. I imagine it would pretty much just be Goten and Trunks, like, beating the shit out of somebody, and then Gohan would end up with a Kamehameha or just a Masenko or something kind of at the end. I really couldn't think of anything. These guys never actually fight together. I kind of just made this my own, and I didn't have a great idea, like the Blutz Wave Cannon firing at the enemy. But they have a pretty good super attack effect. This greatly raises defense and raises attack for 1 turn and then lowers enemy attack. Now, they have Conquering for Lord Baby. Now, if you look at them, they have Supporting, they have Conquering, because these are an offensive unit. A lot of the time, they do this, like with Raccoon and Burner and Jace. Raccoon and Goldo were like a very defensive unit, where like Burner and Jace were more like support dodging. So you have one that's like really good, same with like Diaz and Cacao. They're like good, and then you have Amon and Brazen, who are like the gods. This is kind of like the gods of their team. This is just kind of like the worse off option. So yeah, they get 3 key and 150 stats at the start of turn. They launch 3 additionals, each with a medium chance, so 30% chance of becoming a super attack. They get 65% attack and defense when performing a super attack. They have a medium chance to perform a crit. They have a great chance to guard all attacks. They get up to 150% attack and defense with each attack received. They have to get hit 10 times. Baby had to attack 10 times. The girl duo, they had to dodge 10 times. These guys have to get hit 10 times. They get 9% damage reduction per super attack performed. Per super attack, not just per attack, and that's only up to 30. You know how I feel about 30% damage reduction. Again, I made these characters a long time ago. My opinions have since changed, but I wanted to stay true kind of to the kit that they were given at the time. They guard all attacks when another character has the Hatred of Saiyans link in the same turn. And then all allies who have the Hatred of Saiyans link get a 33% chance to crit. So, again, these are a much weaker option to run on the team. They'll do really good damage. They're getting a lot of stats. They get pretty decent defense. So if you are able to launch 5 attacks, which you can do, the one you do at the start of the turn, then they have the 3 additionals. You give them hit potential. That would be 5 right there. You could potentially get a lot of greatly raised defense, obviously. And they are guaranteed guarding, and once you get that, they'll have the 30% damage reduction. So they'll have pretty high defense, 30% damage reduction. They'll be guarding, and then as you get hit, they just get more and more and more defense. The chance to crit is just kind of nice since they are doing so many attacks. They're kind of like a weaker version of Final Form Cooler, but a more defensive version, obviously. I kind of like what I did with it, and then giving offensive support instead of the defensive support of the 10% damage reduction. Again, the Videl and Bulma are significantly better than this trio right here, but I thought, it'd be fun. And it makes sense for them, too, because that's kind of how Baby used them in the show, was just kind of like conquering the entire planet, or like beating up Gohan so he could take over Gohan, so they could then jump Vegeta, so they could take over Vegeta. And then their links, they have GT, Hatred of Saiyan, Shattering the Limit, Loyalty, Cold Judgment. Then they have the Super Saiyans link, which is 15% attack, and then Brutal Beatdown, which is also 15% attack. Brutal Beatdown is I gave that to them so that they can have the Brainwash Bash attack, where again, it's just them jumping, because that's kind of how Baby utilizes them. As well, it's just a good villain link. A lot of villains have it, and it just makes them do a little bit of extra damage. Then for their categories, they have Corroded Body and Mind, Inhuman Deeds, Terrifying Conquerors, Space Traveling Warriors, Earthbred Fighters, Hybrid Saiyans, Super Saiyans, Droid Forces, and Revenge. So that's all the characters that we have, but I quickly wanted to re-look at a character I made a long time ago. I gave this guy an EZA all the way back when I did my custom Bio Broly character, and this was meant to support Bio Broly, but it would be another option because this is Super Baby 2 Giant Ape, where if you look all the way back here, this is just Super Baby 2. So, they could still link with each other. There is also the AGL LR, which isn't quite out on Global yet, but will be very soon, because I expect once the Trunk celebration ends, we'll get the Part 2 Tanabata at the start of, like, February. So, yay, we can look forward to that. Oh my god, he's so good. But yeah, I just really quickly wanted to re-dive into this character since, he's on theme. So he's an EZA Int TUR, obviously. I gave him a new leader skill, which is Artificial Life Forms allies get 3 key and 130 to stats, or Extreme Int allies get 3 key and 100 to stats. He has a nuking lead, which means that there are certain events you just can't run him in. So I gave him a different leader skill, but because of the sub-EZA physical Trunks from the Super 13 movie. I doubt that once this baby Easy Ace eventually, it's been a long time. This is like a 2017 unit, I think, or 2016 even. Once he does Easy A, he'll probably still be a nuking lead, which does suck, which means there will just be events you can't run him in, which kind of hinders his team, but again, we're just going to pretend that doesn't actually happen. He has the Revenge Death Ball, which is the key blast, raise attack and defense for 1 turn. It causes supreme damage to the enemy and lowers attack. So, passive skill, Blitz Wave of Hatred. He gets 2 key at 130% attack and defense at the start of turn. He guards all attacks and is super effective against all types for the first 3 turns from first appearance. He has a high chance to guard from the 5th turn from first appearance. Artificial Life Form category allies get 1 key and 20% attack and defense, plus an additional 20% attack and defense to all allies who also belong to the Giant Form category. He gets an additional 100% attack when HP is 30% or above, and he transforms to a grade 8 when conditions are met. Again, I said this in this a long time ago. I designed this character before the Worldwide Download Celebration had even hit global, so we didn't even know like what Omega Shenron was capable of. We had no idea that Fusion Zamasu was right around the horizon. This guy is no longer good enough. If you're running him, you would be running him for A, his Link set, and B, the Giant Transformation. But if you're using him just for the Giant Transformation, you might as well use the AGL LR. But, again, just wanted to bring it up just because it's a character I made in the past and it's on theme. So for his Link skills, he has Thirst for Conquest, Metamorphosis, Sand Roar, GT, Hatred of Sands, Big Bad Bosses, and Fierce Battle. Now, he has Sand Roar, which I did not give my baby. Mostly because that is a Super Saiyan 4 Link, and I don't really know why he has it. It doesn't really make sense other than just so that he can link with other GT characters better, I guess. Which, I mean, makes sense. And he also is a Fierce Battle character when I gave all the other ones Shattering the Limit, just because I kind of like Shattering the Limit just a little bit more, because it does give you just that bit of defense, and the key support is always nice. And then this baby, Giant Form, Transformation Boost, Artificial Life Form, Terrifying Conquerors, Target Goku, Final Trump Card, Revenge, Inhuman Deeds, Giant Ape Power, Space Traveling Warriors, Corroded Body and Mind, GT Bosses, and Battle of Fate. Obviously, this one's on a little bit more categories because he has the Giant Ape Transformation. But he doesn't have, like, Power of Wishes, so, like, if we get, like, a villain Power of Wishes one day, we can actually run Bulma on the team, which is much more relevant than this guy and any of his support. And he does also have a Giant Ape Transformation, which can happen when HP is 30% or more. It lasts for 1 to 2 turns. He receives 2 key per key sphere obtained. He has a high chance to crit, and he launches an additional with a high chance of becoming a super. And then his super is the Super Gallic Gun, which is the key blast, greatly raise attack temporarily and causes destructive damage to the enemy. So there we go. That is my idea for a Super Baby 2. Would it be anything like this? Probably not. But I really wanted to feed in A to the domain, because domains were still super fresh in like my mind when I did create this character all those months ago. And I did just kind of want to like go on record to try to make the Hatred of Sands League a little bit better. Even though ultimately it would hold this character back, having a restriction to a link that only Super Baby characters and Hachiak has. I guess again you could kind of spread it out to a few other characters, or like once we get into like Granola, I know that's a long ways away, but once we get like Granola, or maybe to a lesser extent, yeah, probably Moro wouldn't, but you know what I mean. We could potentially get like a Frieza. Like Frieza probably could have it, but he has like other links that are specific to the Frieza clan characters, so probably not. But there's potential out there. It could happen. It could happen. But yeah, there we go, guys. Let me know what you thought about Super Baby and his side banner units. And I will just give you a quick little taste if you weren't on my stream last night, although it'll be several days removed from you guys. The next custom character, which will actually be coming out very soon, in just a few days, will be an LR Carnival Nail. I did hide the passive, so you can't get too much of a sneak peek. But that's going to be all for this time, guys. I have been the Super27. I'm a variety Twitch streamer and an up-and-coming YouTuber trying to make it big in the world. I have a Twitter, a Twitch, a TikTok, and a YouTube, the links of which can be found in the description of this video. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, share me around, and leave me a comment. I love it when you guys interact with me. Please let me know if you had 1,000 stones, would you summon for this sumbitch or not? Did I make a great character? Did I make a bad character? Did I revive the Hatred of Sands link somehow with all this massive amounts of support? I think he's pretty cool. You know, you have the versatility of doing a domain on turn 1. No other character has that capability. If you run him on his team with the Bulma, that's 80% damage reduction every single turn. And even if you don't run him on his designated team, they do share several categories: Inhuman Deeds, Terrifying Conquerors, Space Traveling Warriors, Revenge, and Corroded Body and Mind. So if a better character along the road comes down, you could still just do a rotation of these two and float whoever your leader is. So, I don't know, just throwing that out there. But yeah, that's going to be all for this time, guys. So as always, I've been the Sweeper27, and I am signing off.